Many thanks to Nav, Jerb, Scalespeed Gaming and Devotan for making this video possible. Food is without question the most sought after and consumed resource in DayZ, and due to the new decay mechanic introduced in 1.10, that resource has just become even more scarce. You will need to cook your food fast to preserve it, and your squad will need to organise a first in first out system to reduce food waste in your base. Welcome to DayZ. To get you ready for this impactful addition to the game, we're going to look at which food decays, how fast it decays, and how to make your food last as long as possible. Firstly, here's a list of all the edible stuff in DayZ. Right now only meat and vegetables decay over time, but fruit and mushrooms are scripted to decay. This should be fixed soon because having tomatoes decay and apples not decay is clearly not intended. I know this because the script used is exactly the same for vegetables as it is for fruits and mushrooms. Canned foods are scripted to decay, but that script isn't active as of the date of this video. When it is active, canned foods will decay once opened. Dry foods and drinks, on the other hand, never decay, and I highly doubt they will in the future. On the left of this chart is how many days it took for food to decay, and on the bottom are the foods that decay. Just so people can use this info in the future, I've included fruits, mushrooms and opened canned food based on the scripts I found in the game files. Raw food decays in 6 hours from skinning, but if you boil it, it lasts 72 hours, or if baked, 96 hours. However, dried meat takes 8 days to decay, or 192 hours, which means even dried meat will decay at some point. Fruits, vegetables and mushrooms last twice as long as meat and fat, but lose 1 day of freshness when boiled or baked when compared to meat and fat. However, dried never decays. Open cans, while not decaying at the time of this video, will decay in 48 hours once opened. I'm not sure about strawberry jam, if it would decay or not, because you can't open it the same way as canned food. Now, to add a bit of randomness to when foods will decay, all of these foods decay 25% before their expiry times, as you can see here. So anywhere between 75% and 100% is when food decays. Never before, never after. The best way to understand how food decays in DayZ is to imagine that food has a health pool that corresponds with how many seconds it takes to decay. For example, raw vegetables expire in 12 hours, which is 43,200 seconds, but because it can decay 25% faster, the health pool given can be between 34,560 and 43,200. So between these two numbers is how many seconds it would take for a vegetable to decay. Choosing a random number between these two, this is the health pool of the tomato. Every real world second that goes by decreases this number by 1 until it eventually becomes rotten. I'm calling this process health impacted rot per earth second, or herpes. However, if you have this raw tomato in your inventory, every second that goes by reduces this health pool by 2.5 per second instead of 1 per second. Every place you put this raw tomato, a barrel, protector case, a car, the floor, it doesn't matter where it is, it will tick down at 1 health per second. But in a player's inventory or in their hands, it will tick down at 2.5 health per second instead, meaning food decays much faster when on a player. So going back to our chart, let's adjust the times as if it's in a player instead. Looking at raw meat, for example, it can decay inside a player's inventory or in their hands in 1 hour and 40 minutes, down from 6 hours anywhere else. Meaning if you don't cook it within this time limit after you pick it up, it will become rotten and you won't be able to eat it. If you do eat rotten food, I've noticed one of 3 things to happen. First of all, nothing happens at all. I don't know if this is intentional or not, but sometimes if you eat rotten food, it doesn't do anything. Secondly, you can get salmonella, which will make you vomit if you eat too much in a short amount of time. And third, you get chemical poisoning, which will be the worst of the 3, making you sick continuously based on how much you ate. Testing this, you can be sick as much as 9 times by eating a piece of rotten cooked meat, but with a tomato I was sick 4 times. Either way, it's a death sentence for most if you don't have food and water to recover from this. And before you think you can just cook it so you can cook away the rotten stuff on it, it will immediately become burnt if you put it inside a fireplace. Anyway, going back to this chart again, we can compare food stored in the world versus food stored on a player. So it's much better to store your food inside persistent containers like tents and barrels, which all decay at 1 health per second. And by all, I mean all. Even buried containers used as storage won't protect you from this food decay. There are currently only two methods that slow down food decay. If you log off with food on you, the timer pauses until you log back in, or if you have food in your hands, it will never decay. The timer will keep on counting down to 0, so as soon as you put that piece of food in your inventory or on the floor, it will decay, but if you keep it in your hands, it will never go rotten. This is to stop you from accidentally eating food that becomes rotten while you're eating it, I guess. Now there is a use for rotten fat. You can place it inside a cooking pot alongside something that you want to bake, and you can bake one piece of food with it before it becomes burnt. Eating this baked food won't make you sick. One thing that is useless, however, is trying to preserve your food using rubbing alcohol or disinfectant. This has no effect on food decay timers for vegetables, meats or fats. I also discovered that the temperature of your character makes no difference to decay timers, and food rots at the same speed on the coast as it does at Tizzy and other high altitude locations. The sun also doesn't speed up decay times, and nighttime doesn't slow it down either. Even the moisture level of your character's clothes has no effect on decay timers. To add to this, whether or not fresh food is placed next to rotten food makes no difference at decay time, and concerning the 5-second rule, dropping food on the floor won't speed up the decay time. In fact, leaving it on the floor will slow down the decay time because it's not in your inventory. However, the biggest question of all when it comes to food decay is, which methods should I use to make my food last as long as possible? Well, for one, you can kill animals outside of your base. Instead of killing them miles away and having to run back with the raw meat on you, you can lure them to your base, kill them there, skin them there, because the timer only starts when the meat and the fat drops to the floor. However, this timer is for raw meat and raw fat. As soon as you cook either one of these, a completely different timer begins based on the cooking method used, which means how long you carry or store raw meat or fat has no impact on the timer of cooked meat. But before you think you can just turn baked meat to boiled meat to reset this timer again, it will immediately burn your food if you place it inside a fireplace again. And yes, it even burns when trying to smoke the meat, so don't waste food trying this. When it comes to storage, you will need to come up with some sort of system that your squad or your base mates know, because if you eat the fresh meat first, all of the old meat that you collect will go off and you will need to go hunting more often. I guess a good system for this would be putting meat that you just collected at the bottom of your containers, so the stuff that's higher up has lower decay time on it and therefore you'd waste less food over time. Or maybe someone in the comments has a better idea than this. Now, just as important as storage is how you cook what you're storing. You can't just slap raw meat into containers like you used to and cook it later, because it will expire in 6 hours. You have to cook it immediately now. So I've devised a scoring system based on how meat, fat and vegetables are affected by cooking methods. So in this chart we're using raw food here as a baseline at 100% energy and 100% hydration. If we put boiled food into this chart, we will see that the boiled food has 25% more energy, but has no effect on hydration. Baking the food, which is the easiest method of cooking in DayZ, provides a massive 75% increase in energy nutrition from food, but at the cost of losing 25% of its hydration benefits. And finally, dried food has no effect on energy, but loses 90% of its water contents. Combining the total energy and hydration, we can see which food states provide the best benefits once cooked, which is baked food at 250%. However, dried food lasts twice as long at 6 days minimum. So to solve this problem of which one of these two is best, we will multiply how nutritious the food is by how long it lasts, putting baked food out in front, but not far behind is dried. Now, I would recommend baked because 75% extra energy is worth it, but it will mean you will need to rotate through your food in around 3 days. On the other hand, if you don't care about hydration, here is the same chart without hydration included, which makes dried food better. Which one you choose, I guess, will be based on your circumstances. To get these results, I manually gathered everything you see in this video. I didn't spawn a single item in. So it took a long time to do this video. During that time I picked up a lot of bonus information that I didn't share in this video, so if you do have questions about this mechanic, let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. In my last video, a lot of you voiced your views on fractures and how they worked. I believe the comments there had an impact on the direction that the devs took the fracture mechanic. So your comments on this video will probably decide the future of this mechanic too, so get posting. Thank you very much for watching and have a good day.